So, Renaissance Workshops, this is a little video about how I've worked out a way to save on precious silicone mould, which is very expensive, the two-part. And so it started yesterday when I was doing this carving for a sculpture, and it's a Maori inscription in there. And I thought I'll quickly do that, and I'll quickly do a mould so I can put the original inside the sculpture as a sort of special thing. But when I came to actually lay them out as you normally would on something like some little nails there and that, I actually thought, right, one of the problems is how much do you mix to fill it so that you get the complete coverage. And so I poured water on there and I found it came to about 1 litre, and 1 litre of that silicone is probably $100 or more. So I thought, right, how can you do it more economically? And so I suddenly thought a layer of dough, just ordinary flour and water, white flour and water, and you make up what you think you might need to put, and you roll it out. And so I'm reenacting what I did, right? This morning I did what I invented. So basically that is about as thick as you'd want for a nice silicone mould, a two-part mould, which we make by cutting a complete encapsulated object. So see that cut there? It's done with a sharp box cutter or a little scalpel. And that means that it's like a clam, it shuts in place. So the technique that I use, which I'll cover another video, but basically you've got a two-part mold. You smear the cement in, it's cement and a bit of sand, white sand and cement with colouring, and you smear it in, smear, fill it up, and then squish it together and vibrate it on a vibrating table like this one. So that's sort of the background. You squish it like that, and then you put it aside, just like that, and let it set. And then when it's set, you open it out like that, pull the thing out, trim it around where there's always a bit of a joint. So that's what we're aiming at. We're aiming at encapsulating with a thick layer an odd-shaped object. And so what I did was I got a complete layer around each one of these. You could do one at a time, of course. I just happen to have two halves. So you completely encapsulate like so, and when you think it's like a centimetre, maybe up to ½ an inch, maybe 1/3 of an inch or a centimetre, then you put it on a piece of glass, and you get some plaster of Paris. And plaster of Paris, casting plaster, gives you a very quick setting mix. So basically that is what I've done with these. I've poured plaster over it onto a surface with a bit of mold release, it can be any sort of grease, oil, but you can get with spray cans. So then when it's set, it's looked like this, and then you pull this out, you get rid of the spacing material, which is what it is. And so when I did the two, I got the spacing material and I checked how much it will use. So this volume here is what we'll use for, that's the amount of silicone. So that comes to 400 mils, which is less than ½ a litre. So we've at least saved half, maybe probably more, which is quite a bit. And so I'll show you what the next stage will be, but I won't actually mix the silicone, but here it is here on here. So I've actually marked a number on these just so I remember which way. So I put little spacer nails there to raise it to the height that it needs to be. Little spacer panel pins drilled in, and now numbering, yes, number 1 to 1. that goes in there like so, something like that. And then we pour 2-part. So you mix that very thoroughly. So you measure it out, obviously, in a measuring thing. So in this case, it would be 200 mils of this, 200 of that. Mix it up really well. Pour it in right up to the level here, which should be exactly right, 400 mils. And then when it sets, pull out the silicone, cut round with a sharp knife, and you've got your mould. So much more on this later. It's a huge subject. I've done a lot of moulds. There's one-piece ones. There's ones that just use ordinary silicone from a tube. There's all sorts of tricks. The one-piece moulds are very cool if you can get away with the one-piece mould. So I'll show that's by a sort of a paint-on, brush-on rubber. That's a good way if you've got a base that you... But if you want to do something like that's really shaped, you probably need a 2-piece mould. But I always do it by cutting, almost always. This one is one the other way, which takes longer, where you do one layer and then you have a mould release and then you put another layer. And but this is me signing out. Lots and lots more that I could talk about in the next video.